Well, good morning. My name is Johnny Fowler, and I'm with Anchor of Grace here in Oklahoma. My email and name is at the bottom of the screen. My email is Johnny, Johnny, dot Fowler, Fowler, at anchorgrace.org. I hope you're having a great morning, and today we're going to be talking about OpenLP 104 and how to set up OpenLP uh, and your overhead projectors for optimum viewing by your audience uh, in your sanctuary. Uh, so let's get started. I am going to start off with by showing you there's OpenLP on my computer. I have it open. I have my screens adjusted the way I like them when I'm setting up. And I'm going to go on to my library over on the left hand side. Oops, there you go. And go down to there's Bibles, presentations. Here we go. And under presentations, I have my training in here in PDF files. And we are going to be doing number 4, OpenLP 104. How to set up your PC and overhead displays in the sanctuary. So let's double click it and I'll take you to my overhead. And as you can see, OpenLP 104, how to set up OpenLP PC and overhead. Surely we can get it all in focus and get it working. That's every Sunday morning. That's the way you get rolling, is you get started by getting it all set up so that nothing's out of focus while we're worshiping the Lord. So let's go, and the next slide is how to set up the PC and your overhead displays. Well, like we talked about in OpenLP, the previous OpenLP 102 training, 103 training, we talked about putting it on an SDC card so you could take your presentation between home and church. So I'm going to assume you're at church, you've plugged it in your unit, and your PC is hooked to your HDMI to all your overhead projector screens, wherever they might be. And let's go to the next slide. So, as part of this training, we're going to be focusing on needed disciplines for PC and overhead displays. And this is going to be really important training session. I've learned a lot of this from my pastor and from years of experience. Discussions of the current and future display resolutions and how it's going and from this year and next year where it might go. I misspelled display right there. Anyway, I'm going to give you a rule of thumb on where to position your overhead screens to the audience. And we're going to talk about display settings for Windows 11, which I recommend highly because of some of the new features in Windows 11, and display settings for Windows 10 PC. So, the first thing I want to discuss with you is overhead projector resolutions. Most popular for 2023 into the future, the desires that people might have. And over on the left hand side is the normal common names used for the definition. The old 720, or called high definition, was a 1280 by 720. There's still a lot of people using that. And then they went to wide XGA, and it increased to 800 on pixel height, and that was a 16:10 ratio. It's not quite as popular. We're still into 16.9, and now we're in the full high definition world, FHD, what they call 2K, and that's a 1920 by 1080. It was a 16.9 resolution, and they're using probably 1200 instead of 1080 if it's a 1610. Now, and then the next revolution that's going to come about, this is the revolution we're in right now, full high definition, okay? And for most purposes in a sanctuary, that's all we need for resolution for the audience to properly see what's going on. Now, on a Sunday and you got the all the men in there and women watching the Super Bowl or some special game on the overhead, it would be nice if you did have a 4K so that when they throw in that ball, you can catch as it flies across the screen. You can watch everything that's going on. And then sometime in the future, we'll probably go to what's ultra high definition. But for right now, 1920 by 1080 is a normal one that is used. Okay? So, I'm going to go to the next one. Now we're going to talk about the positioning of your overhead screen to the audience. Now, to give you an idea, a screen that is too big for the settings will actually be difficult for your view to see in its entirety. If they're positioned too close to the image, for instance, they may be forced to strain their eyes to see and literally move their heads side to side to see the whole picture. It's like if you see them moving their heads back and forth as they're reading the verses singing, guess what? You're actually too close to your viewers. You want to make it easy so that they keep their head pointed straight ahead and they're viewing it. Now, all projectors have what's called a throw distance, and whatever projector you buy will have a throw distance. And this is the distance where the projector is located at an optimal distance from the screen. When optimal distance is used for full high definition, which is what we're talking about commonly used today, or 2K FHD 1920 by 1080, right here. Projectors using the following general rule of thumb can be used for optimum audience seating, ing, distance from the overhead high definition TV or screen. Now, here's the general rule of thumb, and it's fairly important. This rule of thumb is that the seats should be located a distance that is no less than double the width of the projected image on the overhead edge of the platform. Okay, so let's say your screen is 10 feet wide. Okay, it's 10 feet wide, and then at the edge of the stage, where the audience is going to be sitting, at the edge of the stage, that's where the first row of seats is going to be. That should be no more than 20 feet. Okay, double that. Now, and how many rows should you go back for proper viewing? And if you're just going to use one screen up front, then your back row should be no more than 5 times. So 5 times 10 is be no more than 50 feet. So you go from 20 to 50 is where all your seating is going to be. Now, if you're going back further than that, you're probably going to have to put some other screens on the right or left so that the people in the back can use those screens. So it's just a good rule of thumb you can use for helping to set up your overhead screen positioning so that the audience can see the screens the best. Now, let's go to the next slide. Let's see here. Display and how to identify in Windows 11. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how to identify and set up your displays in Windows 11 properly. We covered this briefly in a previous session, but in this OpenLP 104 we're going to go through it again. So what I'm going to do is I am going to switch to the my laptop, and I'm going to minimize OpenLP now, and I'm going to right click on the screen, and I'm in Windows 11. Windows 10, on how to do this in Windows 10, we may not talk about that during this training, but in these slides that are provided with the training, the PDF file, it also has the same type settings but with the Windows 10s in those slides. So with Windows 11, you would right click on the screen, you would select display settings. Okay, display settings would come up. Now in my particular case, I'm using 3 screens. I have a third screen which is above mine where I have OBS running so that I can monitor what's going on from there. But this is what you would normally have, number 1 and number 2, and number 2 would be the overhead projectors out on HDMI splitters with multiple screens, multiple TVs, or however you want to do it, coming out of one HDMI, coming out of your PC and driving them. Okay, so so now screen one, this is blue because this is a currently selected display. Okay, so if I highlight 2, then that's the currently selected display. And if I highlight 3, that's the currently selected display. And that's how it works in here. Now, if I want to identify where the screens are, you'll see that this screen, looking at the bottom left, is identified as 1. Okay, and I'm going to go over to the overhead screen, and I'm going to click on it, identify, and you can see it pops up as screen number 2. Okay, so let's go back to my laptop. Now, so my overhead is 2 and 1 is my PC or laptop. Now I'm going to go down, and if you go down to where it says display resolution, okay, this is the recommended resolution to use for the current display I have on there, which is number 1, my computer. Okay, and that is what I recommend you use, is 1920 by 1080 full high definition. Now I am going to go back up, and I'm going to select the overhead screen here. So now I have identified screen 2, which is my overhead, and I'm coming down, and this is the displayed resolution for that one. Now, if I was using a 2K TV, then this could go up to 3840, so you would have ultra high definition. But we're using full high definition. So that's what we're using, and I would recommend that for your audience. Okay, so I think we just got that. So let me go back to my overhead. Okay, now it could be that multiple displays is set to show only one. If so, click and pull down there and select extended display. So when you brought this up, if there was only one display, that meant that either your screen outside is not turned on, okay, or you need to extend to that screen. So you would click over here and see like it's showing only one. You'd put a pull down on this, and then select the extended displays. Okay, and then once you've got it set up the way you like it, as you can see, you can scroll down to minimize window. Here it is, and keep these display settings. Once you've changed them, you change that to extended, this screen will pop up, and you select keep changes, so it locks in that while you're using it. It doesn't be changing on you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my computer, and I'm going to bring window, here we go. I'm going to close the screen display and bring OpenLP back up, and we're going to go to the next slide. Now, we just talked about that down here on your system. That's the recommended for both the overhead and your PC. And I have a note down here. If your PC is capable and your overhead projector is a 4K, then the recommended display resolution may be 3840. That may be what's recommended. However, I still suggest you change it to 1920 by 1080 because viewing it at the current rule of thumb, because the screen positioning will be fine. And we talked about that in the previous slides. So that's sort of a note to let you know what I'm talking about. Now, so let's see, go to the next slide, and I'm going to switch you back to the overhead. You didn't get to see what I was talking about. Okay, again, I'm going to go over this real quick. So here we have 1920. You want that for both of them. Now this note is important. That's the reason I went back to this slide so you can see it on overhead. If your PC is capable and your overhead projector is a 4K UHD, then the recommended display resolution may show up as 3840 by 2160 recommended. However, I still suggest you set 1920 to 1080 for your overhead. The rule of thumb that I talked about before, positioning will be fine. You don't have to worry about this 3840 for right now by 2160. Okay, so the next slide. Now here's we've basically gone through everything on how to set up the slides. This is walking through the same setup, but it's different. It's for a Windows 10 this time. And if you have a Windows 10, when you right click, you're going to get on screen on the desktop, and select display screens. It'll pop up, and if it shows only one, you want to extend the displays. Then once it's extended displays, you want to have it keep the distance. Okay, and then this is an example. If you have like a 3140 screen, an ultra high definition compared to your PC laptop, and again, I would suggest setting that for 1920 by 1080 and not leaving it in that real large, extra large. You're causing your computer extra work, and it's not necessary. And it may slow down even your computer, because going to those extra pixels is a lot of drive on your computer. So, in here it talked about, again, the blue and the gray and how to identify them and click on them. And you can scroll down and select scroll down on the next page and select multiple displays if you wanted to. Okay, so I think, yeah, if you scroll down, you go to advanced displays, and that's where you actually set the settings for each display you're using. Display 1 and display 2, you would set them for 1920. Okay? So that checks it to make sure it's okay once you've set them up. Now, I think that is the end of this training. It's been quick and brief, and I'm going to just pray that the Lord just bless you abundantly today. And let's go back here to the top here. Okay. Okay. So, how to set up the OpenLP PC and the overhead for optimum use in the sanctuary. Getting the focus out, you might say, and bringing it back into focus on how to set up your sanctuary. Well, I pray that you have a wonderful day in Jesus, and that God just give you a great blessing in your family this day. And here we go. Goodbye. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.